Hi there, I'm Dr. Nicole Smith, founder of Antigravity Wellness, and welcome to a powerful behind-the-scenes look at something truly special. This is the Rooted and Rising, a wellness event created by women for women to empower you through one of the most important transitions of your life, midlife and beyond. We came together with experts in hormone health, pelvic floor therapy, stress resilience, yoga, and more to reconnect, reset, and rise together. In this video, you'll get a glimpse of the wisdom, the sisterhood, and healing that happened that day. Whether you were there in person or just now finding us, you're in the right place. So grab a cup of tea, get cozy, and enjoy this recap of the Rooted and Rising Women's Wellness event. You might just find the next step to your journey right here. Hello, everyone. So I'm going to talk to you guys about the surprising truth about perimenopause. A lot of women have no idea that there is such a thing as perimenopause. We were never told about this. We're barely told about puberty, right? This is your second puberty. It's a time when we go through dramatic changes in our bodies. Our hormones are changing. You feel like you're crazy, but you're not. Things are just adjusting. And there's a lot of, unfortunately, misconceptions out there about it. Providers who weren't well trained and kind of are dismissive towards women who come in with these very common complaints and don't realize that it could actually be the hormones that are changing. So we're going to talk about that. I'm going to give you a really brief overview of this. And you do have your little handout there. So if you look at that first page, your quick symptom check-in, you don't necessarily need to raise your hand, but we are in a safe space. So if you're experiencing 3 or more of these symptoms, it could be something to do with your hormones. So whether you are over 35 or not, we all have, their ovaries in our uterus, unless it's been surgically removed, and then you get bumped into perimenopause or menopause a lot sooner. Also isn't talked about very much. So if you have 3 or more of those, you should come talk to me. All right, so I am Dr. Nicole Smith. I am a doctorally prepared nurse practitioner. I practice here in Washington and Oregon State. I run my own practice called Antigravity Wellness, which is a telemedicine practice. And I've been in medicine for over 12 years. I started out in hospital medicine, Western medicine, spent most of my career there and saw a lot of sick people. And I also spent time as a nurse practitioner as a hospitalist. Again, really sick people. So I got the gist that if we don't take care of ourselves before we get to that point, it just gets more expensive, it gets more debilitating, your quality of life really goes down. I heard so many people in the hospital say, don't get old. I'm like, that's not true. We're all going to get old, but that's not the thing we need to avoid. It is those lifestyle things that we're doing that contribute to chronic disease and things like that. So I wanted to practice in a way that got ahead of this, like work upstream. They've got that analogy of those people, like basically in the hospital, you feel like you're constantly pulling people out of the water, stopping them from drowning. If we go upstream where they're actually falling into the water, maybe we can stop that from even happening. So that's what I'm trying to do with this practice. Okay, so what is perimenopause? It can start as early as age 35, although I've talked to a woman who was in her 30s and early 30s, and she had already started. It can last anywhere from 7 to 10 years or a year to 3 years. Some women have a very short perimenopause and it's fairly benign and they don't really have much symptoms. Other women, it is debilitating. So there's a spectrum. If your puberty was rough, your perimenopause might be rough. If your mom had a hard time, you're probably going to have a hard time. So there's some correlations there. So it's not just about hot flashes. There's tons of different symptoms, as you can see from that first sheet right there. And that's not even all of them. And it is hormonal chaos with the chaos of life as well in this age range. And that's why it's very often dismissed. So things that are often dismissed include mood swings, anxiety, brain fog, irregular cycles, heavy bleeding, weight gain despite effort, or like I didn't change anything and I'm just gaining weight, especially around the belly. Sleep issues become really prominent during this time period. And then joint pain, random joint pain all over the place. And it's not necessarily arthritis, but it often is diagnosed as such. Low libido, also not listed on here. Pelvic floor issues. So we're going to talk more about that when Desirae talks to you guys. So if you're told it's just stress, age, or in your head, you've been misled. So why is your doctor not helping you? They're a good person. They got into medicine for a good reason. We're not trained in this. I didn't receive hardly any education in my doctorate program or even in the undergrad program for nursing about this. So it's really lacking in our education. In doctors, when you do like surveys, they say I had maybe an hour of menopause where they talk about the actual 12 months without a cycle, and then you're in menopause, and then we can treat you, which is not true. But as far as the perimenopause period, there's just no training. So I myself had to seek this out. I had to go to other providers that were doing this as a specialty in order to even learn about this, because it was not something that we were taught. So your labs might look normal, but remember that our labs, when we're looking at the typical labs, we're looking for sickness. So they're looking for like diagnosable Hashimoto's or adrenal dysfunction that is to the point of Addison's or Cushing's, or, so we're looking for sick people. We're not looking for you don't feel well and you're not optimized. Okay. So even like your sex hormones can be normal, but they're not. And there's such a huge range and everyone differs. So we treat the person in front of us, not just the numbers on a sheet of paper. Okay. So the big truth is this is fixable and it's manageable, but it takes a holistic approach, not just here's your hormone replacement, have a nice, year and I'll see you next year. No, it's a whole program that we put together. And you're not meant to suffer through this. And I really want to drive that home. A lot of women think that this is just inevitable. I hear that a lot. They come to me and they're like, I'm just getting old and this is just how it is. That's not the case. We don't need to settle. There are certain changes that come on with aging, of course, but that doesn't mean that we need to suffer through this and just accept the fact that our libido is gone, our joints hurt, we're getting overweight and we hate our bodies. And we also don't feel at home in ourselves anymore. It doesn't have to be that way. So there's 5 key pillars of hormone harmony that we use at Antigravity Wellness. So first of all, we look at stress and adrenal support. Your cortisol levels will be different through perimenopause than they will at any other time in your life because of those changes that your body is already going through. It's in kind of a stress state because your hormones are changing. And so we're not able to adapt to that stress as easily. I hear a lot of women who come to me and they say, I used to be able to like cope with things and I could handle the stress of my life. And now all of a sudden I just cannot. I am stressed out, I'm crying, I'm losing sleep, and I don't know what's wrong. That's where we need to come in and look at your cortisol patterns, look at your stress, and you need extra recovery, which can be really hard. I'm talking to some women in here who are like CrossFitters and everything and athletes, and you guys push yourselves really hard. We have to step back, and that's really hard. But the fun thing is that when you do that, when you honor your body and listen to what's happening in there, take that step back, you're going to be stronger, you're going to feel better, and that weight that you've been struggling with will also start to come off again. Gut and liver health is huge because there's this thing called the estrobolome. That is the microbiome balance within your body, especially in your gut and in your vagina, of the estrogen. When we start to lose our estrogen, that estrobolome gets affected. Also, what happens through perimenopause is the estrogen can get too high and start to back up. So if our liver is not detoxifying properly, it gets backed up. We have things like heavy periods, more menstrual cramps, things of this nature. So we want to make sure that we are detoxifying properly. Balanced nutrition and protein intake. This is huge. I have so many women who come to me and like athletes, because I treat athletes and I treat regular women who never trained in their entire life, right? So we get these women who come to me and both of them are under eating on their protein. And the woman who is training super hard wonders why she's so tired and can't recover from her workouts. And then when we finally dig into it, I'm eating like 80 grams of protein a day. That's not going to cut it. It's not going to work. So we need to aim for more like 1 to 1.2 grams of protein per pound of ideal body weight. As we age and we get past that menopause, we actually need to increase our protein intake because we're really starting to break down that muscle. It's called sarcopenia, and it just happens with aging. It also happens with the loss of estrogen. Estrogen is an anabolic hormone, builds muscle. So as we lose that, we need to do other things to help kind of compensate for that. So strength training recovery, as opposed to doing a bunch of like HIIT cardio and long distance endurance training, which can be so great. And if you love it, keep it in your routine, but it needs to be modified. We need to be doing more strength training because what builds muscle builds bone. Okay. So when we're building our muscle, when we're building our strength, we are building our bone health. This is also super important as we age. That's one of the things that happens after menopause. Your risk for osteoporosis starts going up, and that's a way to combat that. Also helps with your basal metabolic rate, your stress relieving, all things, all good things. And then targeted supplements and bioidentical hormone replacement, BHRT, when it's appropriate. For some women, it's not appropriate, but for others, it's a game changer. And I've seen dramatic changes in women who have tried everything else, and then we finally get them on the right hormone replacement regimen for them, because every woman is different, and they finally feel better again. All right, so this is a case study. Sarah, name is changed to protect privacy. So age 43, and when she came to me, she's got 2 kids, she's working full time, she's got aging parents that she's taking care of, and her sleep has gone to crap. And she's trying to do her workouts, but she just can't anymore. And she's been doing faster training that used to work for her, and it's not working anymore. Her stress is through the roof. So we did some deeper dives on what's been going on. And of course, she was dismissed by her primary care. They were like, oh, you're just stressed out. Here's an anti-anxiety medication. And it didn't help her. It actually made her feel worse. So come to me. We do deep dive into her functional labs, and we find things like her vitamin D is low. Super common. People are like, oh, I get sunshine. No, not up here, not up north. Most of us don't get enough. And there's a lot of Caucasians in particular. We tend to have a genetic variation where we do not convert vitamin D in the skin into the active form D3. So we need to supplement with that. As we age, that gets worse too. We also found that her estrogen was starting to drop. Her progesterone was in the toilet. Her testosterone was like 3, and that's really low. So we did some things, helped her out, got her on a regimen, and she was feeling way better, back to sleeping, back to feeling like herself again. Also feeling her workouts properly, because she wasn't doing that. She was just kind of doing what she'd always been doing when she was younger, and her body could tolerate it. But through this transition, you can't skip meals, you can't skip your protein. You got to like really focus on your nutrition if you want to actually feel better and fuel your workouts through this. So within that 6 to 8 weeks, she was starting to feel better. By 12 weeks, she was a completely different person. So what I want every woman to know here, you are not too young to be in perimenopause. I've had women come to me she was 47. She was 47. And she said, oh, my doctor told me I'm too young to be in perimenopause. I'm like, are you serious? So, again, lack of education. And you deserve to have answers. And that's one thing that I will work really hard on, to make sure that we get into the root cause of what's going on. And sometimes it takes some time to really pull back those layers and see what's actually happening. But you deserve to know why you're feeling this way and then what to do about it. And then you don't have to do this alone. All of you women in here, we're all a support group, right? Talk to your girlfriends. You can come talk to me. And there's lots more support too online. If you search perimenopause or menopause, it is blowing up, which I love, because we need more education around this. So at Antigravity Wellness, like I said, run a virtual clinic. We have a 3-tier package programs that we do for 12 months. And I don't do insurance, but I do super bills and HSA. Blood work goes to the lab. They bill your insurance. We do functional labs, which is rolled into my cost, so you don't pay anything extra for that. Very comprehensive. Really get into what has been going on and get that transformation. So looking for women who are fed up and they want real answers, and they want a real program and accountability that will get them there. So we have a free resource. If you want to scan the QR code, you get it. You don't have to give me your email or anything. You can scan the QR code up there. This is the perimenopause guide. So it's going to go deeper into perimenopause and what it is, how the hormones affect you, the labs that you can ask for from your doctor, because there are some really great primary care doctors out there that even though they don't really understand all the nuances of perimenopause and menopause, they really want to know. They're willing to work with you, and if you ask them for the labs, they'll order them for you. If they don't, you can come to me. All right, so we got a couple more things here for you too. We have a free 5-day hormone reset mini course. So digging into those root causes, kind of going through 5 layers of what could be going on and how to fix those. So you can scan that QR code if you want that. Also, you can book your brief initial consult call. It's a 20-minute phone call with me, and we go over what's been happening with you, your symptoms, what's working, what's not working, and then how I can help, whether that's sending you back to your primary care or your GYN with a plan, or I take over that side of your hormone care. Either way, I want to help. Also, that bottom code there is on my materials over there, the business cards and such. So final encouragement, you don't need to wait until menopause, despite the old adage that we thought we had to wait to reclaim your energy, your clarity, and your spark. You don't need to just suffer through this transition without help. You deserve to have help, okay? So let this be your wake-up call. You deserve better. Let's rise together. Thank you guys so much.
Why do we care about the muscles, tendons, and bones? Well, because 75% of menopausal women will report a musculoskeletal issue, which, if we think about it, when we always think about perimenopause and menopause, we always think about hot flashes. That's the first thing that comes to our mind. Is like, great, I'm going to have hot flashes. Well, we don't think about these other components of the loss of estrogen and the changes in our hormones. 25% of people will become disabled through that transition due to the decline of the musculoskeletal system, which is a scary thought, especially when we have, there's a lot of just role we can play in preventing some of the decline. The top reasons why women will enter nursing homes is loss of mobility, fall risk, incontinence, and then some of those cognitive changes like dementia. And right now, middle age, which I hate to say, it's I'm 35, and I was like, middle age? I'm young. The gray says different, but I'm embracing it. Is opportunity to set us up for our second half of our lives. So common diagnoses you will see just from that estrogen loss is osteopenia, osteoporosis. So that changes in bone density. It'll become more porous, a little bit more fragile. You do need bone density scans to monitor that. So definitely seek those out. Compression fractures of the spine are common, and they're kind of those silent fractures. People will just come in like, my back hurts. And then we find out later it was a compression fracture. So having good bone health to prevent those fractures, and then fall risk. So we've all heard about those hip fractures after a fall. Those can be life-changing, detrimental in the later years. And then those happen just bone health changes due to those hormonal changes, and we are decreasing our loading. So if you go outside of a CrossFit gym and you ask the general population when was the last time they ran, jumped, and sprinted, you'd probably get it's been 20 years. So we stop loading our bones as we get older. And so that also leads to some decline in that bone health. Osteoarthritis. So we will get some of that increase in arthritic pain. It's not leading to that arthritis, but the low estrogen levels will cause joint inflammation. So we get a lot of our total knee patients around that age because they're starting to get a lot of knee pain, and they're not rushing, but they're considering that total knee idea. But it's like, can we also address some other factors within that? So because we're having decreased muscle strength around the joint, we have increased joint inflammation from what's going on. It's not just the idea that we have osteoarthritis, because that is general just wear and tear on the bones. Tendon pathology. When estrogen levels start to change, you get increased joint inflammation, which makes symptoms, drop down. Tendon pathology, common in the shoulder, elbows, and hips. So hormonal changes can affect collagen, tendon flexibility, making tendons more susceptible to injury. I call on Trisha every time I say, this hurts, that hurts, this hurts. everything, every time I come in, but that's okay. So we do have a change to the tendon. So you will see increased tendinopathy at this time of life, or increase in like the symptoms from a rotator cuff tear. Rotator cuff tear could have been there for 10 years, but now you see the symptoms of that because of loss of strength and everything else around the joint. And so making sure you go to physical therapy, because this is commonly mistreated. Most people think I have to rest. I have to stop doing what I love doing because I need this to heal. And then the doctor recommends a cortisone injection, and then they go back to their sport or their activity, and pain comes back on. Not that those things were wrong. It's just we never loaded the tendon appropriately to go back to the activity you love. So if you get diagnosed with a tendon pathology, osteoarthritis, or have weak bones, seek out physical therapy. Strong is the new skinny. So everything that I've talked about already benefits from ongoing physical activity and strength training. So it is the closest thing we have to a silver bullet when we're talking about our muscle loss, cardiovascular health, metabolic health, right? Women start losing muscle mass around 31. Men don't have those same muscle losses until their 50s. Such a ripoff. I know. Like, every time I hear that, I'm like, man, but then I wouldn't want to be a man. So I'll take it. Recommendations, 150 moderate intensity aerobic activity to 75 minutes of vigorous intensity per week. Come to our sweat class. You've come to our sweat class. That's enough for that cardiovascular health anyway. But adding in some strength training is obviously what we need, 2 to 3 times a week, focusing on major muscle groups. Goal is to prevent that muscle loss, improve bone density, support our joints, and regulate our body weight. CrossFit Unrestrained. I'm obviously biased, but that's okay. We have the best gym. Why? Because CrossFit Unrestrained and CrossFit in general, I was actually looking in, like doing my study leading up to this, and I sent it to Dana, and even some of the major courses that I take have like a little podcast on CrossFit and its benefits. And it's like, look, see, everybody, like, there's such a benefit. Why do we not tell people more about this? But it keeps women active in a scalable way. It maintains enough input to our bones and muscle, provides that stimulation that we need to stay strong. It improves our cardiovascular fitness, and it's community-based. We also have to think about socialization and how healthy that is on our morale and our brain and our body. And so CrossFit's a great opportunity to find a gym that's community-based. All fitness levels are welcome. If you're already a CrossFitter, don't stop CrossFitting. It's good for you. As much as I complain. Every time I come to class, like, thrusters, burpees. Aw. Can we just clean? So changes to the pelvic floor. So now we're going to go down to more of the pelvic area. So that was just like generalized. Now let's talk about the pelvic floor. Changes in the loss of estrogen. So our vaginal and urethral tissues, their elasticity and the thickness is maintained by estrogen. It starts to weaken and thin as we go through that perimenopause, menopause transition. Pelvic floor muscle weakness is a big deal. It supports our pelvic floor. We may lose tone, strength, and coordination or power. So we don't care if we have the strongest Kegel in the world. We need to have muscles that contract and support and relax when we want to. That muscle weakness will cause our muscles to become less supportive, increase urinary incontinence, and pelvic organ prolapse. Bladder and bowel changes. You will see increased frequency and incontinence, so that leaking, because the lining of the bladder can become less, the lining of the bladder can also become less tolerant to irritants. So if you're someone who has an irritant, could be coffee, sparkling water. If you felt a little bit of increased urge after having carbonated water, give me a call. Because the bladder it can become intolerant, makes you feel like you need to pee when you don't. You can also have some loss of bowel control. So GSM, because of that loss of estrogen, you can have increased dryness, irritation, discomfort in the vaginal walls. That leads to an increase of UTIs. This affects muscle responsiveness and sexual function. Reduced connective tissue support, so less passive support around the ligaments and the fascia that supports the pelvic organs can lead to that prolapse symptoms. It is a very symptomatic diagnosis. So if you are ever diagnosed with a prolapse, please do not Google it because the pictures are very scary. Seek out pelvic floor PT. Doesn't have to be me. Seek out a doctor because there's a lot we can do. It's a very symptomatic diagnosis, so it doesn't always correlate with grades. 4 is the worst. 1 is obviously the best, but there's a lot we can do to help with symptoms if you're ever diagnosed. Decreased sexual function. So weakened pelvic floors can reduce sexual sensation and lead to dyspareunia or pain with intercourse. Vaginal dryness and atrophy also plays a role. In this era, lubrication is your friend, preferably a water-based lubricant. How to prevent decline? Well, spoiler alert, stay strong. Maintaining overall body strength, specifically around the pelvis, hips, and core, as pelvic floor muscle training should not happen in isolation. So you'll see those videos on Instagram that tells you to Kegel every time you're at a stoplight. Not super helpful. Like I said, we don't need a pelvic floor that needs to just contract. We need it to contract when we want, relax when we want, and react to the load that we're putting on it. Goals of pelvic floor muscle training will just be to improve awareness, correct activation, support our organs, and increased strength. If you do have stress incontinence, so leaking with jumping and lifting, seek out a pelvic floor PT or come to one of my future seminars. I've done them several times. We learn how to control our intra-abdominal pressure and bearing down to help with those symptoms. Estrogen therapy, I can't prescribe, I'm not a prescriber, but speak to your provider. There is such a benefit to local or systemic estrogen if that is what you'd like to receive. It helps with vaginal dryness. Can also decrease your risk for UTIs. So we all know older, like our grandmas would get those UTIs and then they'd seem like they have Alzheimer's, but really just had a bladder infection. My mom actually drove, love that woman, but she drove the wrong way on the freeway this year because of one. She lets me tell people, don't worry. We were driving and she's just like, she's driven down the road. She's the cutest. She's 92. And we were driving down the road for the same road we've ever driven on her whole life. 1,000 times she's driven. It's like, where are we? And I was like, what? Sugar and UTI, right? So that can really freak you out when a family member is having an episode like that. Talk to your doctor, have them checked for a UTI. Very important in our older population. And topical estrogen is very helpful with those. Lifestyle changes, weight management, 3% increase of urinary incontinence. I had to think what my abbreviation was there. For every kilogram of weight, you have a 3% chance of your urinary incontinence. So keeping your body weight at a reasonable amount can help with the stress you put on the pelvic floor. Bladder training when indicated, so increase urgency, frequency, you know who to call. Modify lifestyle habits. I'm going to say this as a hypocrite because I don't sleep that often, but I'm working on it. Dora Ring says I did great yesterday. Lack of sleep is connected to many coexisting conditions related to perimenopause, menopause, such as irritability, anxiety, stress, weight gain, and increased pain perception. Why do I care about the pain perception? Because a lot of my women come in and they're in so much pain, and I'm going to do all the physical therapy I possibly can to help them, but it's not going to be as successful because I cannot make you sleep more. I cannot help you necessarily with your stress. I can give you ideas, but you also have to be very proactive in that. Weight gain, more stress on our joints, and just the increased inflammatory load on the body. So it is definitely going to have to be not just the strengthening piece. We have to look at those other lifestyle habits that influence pain. Strategies for better sleep ritual, using the same routines, read a book, make your room a sleep sanctuary, so comfy pajamas, beautiful bedding. Nervous system down training, maybe take some hints from our yoga instructor later. Strategy, room temperature, keeping it cold, socks if you need to keep your feet warm, dark, cold room, managing hot flashes. So they talk a lot about, was it the hot flash that woke you up, or did you wake up and have a hot flash? So you have to pay attention to those sort of things so you can tell your provider what is actually happening, because it could also be a blood sugar issue. So getting woken up in the middle of the night, want to make sure we're monitoring those as well. Journaling, getting out of your head and onto paper. Devices, decreasing your phone at night. I'll get to that one of these days. Duvet management. So having 2 duvets with your significant other so they don't fight you for the blankets. Or you can have it at your temperature. Or you can kick them off when you have a hot flash and they don't get mad. So also saves marriages. Just kidding. So yeah, using 2 duvets. Magnesium glycinate, get your blood work done. And MD approval, since I can't prescribe, make sure you can take it with your other supplements and medications. But magnesium glycinate is also a very good option to help with sleep. Stress, increased stress. We all know cortisol is our stress hormone. It increases abdominal fat. It is important in survival situations, so it comes from way back when. It increases our appetite, promotes cravings for sweet, fat, and salty foods. Exercise helps with that, so it increases our serotonin, endorphins to help reduce the effects of recurring stress, anxiety, depression, and improves our sleep. Improvement in mindfulness, chronic stress, and cortisol response is associated with less belly fat. Doesn't that sound nice? Although weight gain cannot be completely attributed to going through this menopause transition, hormone changes are associated with increase in body fat percentage, increased abdominal fat, and decrease in musculoskeletal mass. Increased abdominal fat, like I talked about a moment ago, leads to worse health outcomes in heart disease and increases our inflammatory load. So on that pain perception piece. Physical activity, whole foods, Mediterranean diet, and prioritizing proteins, seeking out nutritionists when we need to if you have a more complicated medical health history, not just going off YouTube, and also eat. We see a lot of people, because they're having this increase in body fat, their main thing is then I got to cut out foods. So girls got to eat. Danny Spiegel's making a whole lot of money off that phrase. We should eat in the right way. The points to remember: staying strong, staying coordinated. Pelvic floor needs to contract when we want, relax when we want, and then work on modifiable lifestyle habits. And nothing is to be feared, only be understood. A lot of what I read about perimenopause and menopause is doom and gloom. So just understand it. Understand that there's pelvic floor physical therapists, there's hormone doctors out there, there's specialists in the stress space, there's activity that you can use to combat some of these symptoms that's going to happen. Because I already see my pelvic floor. What I do, if I talked about it, I do it. Pregnancy and postpartum too, and then reconnection with the core and pelvic floor. Okay, quiz time. Just kidding.
I am an RN. I've been an RN for over 20 years now. And a couple of years ago, I was working in the hospital, had a couple of traumatic events, and found myself sliding into burnout. And luckily, about that same time, I found life coaching. And so the last several years, I've been providing life coaching, stress management, burnout recovery to my clients. So I do life coaching and stress management. So what is exciting to me is, just like Nicole and Desirae were saying, like, there is a lot that physically changes in our bodies when we hit perimenopause. But what I'm going to talk about is how you can control your mind so that the experience of perimenopause, the experience of your body going through a second puberty, is actually not an event for suffering, but instead very calm and very controlled, and you feel like you're okay, you're safe, and you're going to get through this without becoming some crazy person, right? So we're going to talk about the brain, because I love talking about the brain. And this handout, I will tell you, this handout is a 45-minute presentation. I promise I'm not going to keep you here for 45 minutes talking about stress, but we are going to talk about specifically about thoughts and feelings. Because when it comes to stress, there is the physical stress that Nicole and Desirae were talking about. Your hormones are changing, your cortisol is spiking. There are physical things happening in your body. That's true, factual. But there are also thoughts in your brain that are not factual. They're just thoughts. And when we let those thoughts run rampant, we create an emotional world for ourselves that feels very chaotic. Okay? So this is what we're going to talk about. I want you to think about something that Nicole or Desirae said that you had a reaction to. Maybe when Nicole said something about how your estrogen drops, or maybe how she said somebody was told when they were 47 that it was too early for perimenopause, and you had a response, like you had an emotion, okay? That emotion that you felt was not because she said words. It was because you had a thought about her words. And we know this because the woman sitting right next to you could have had a different emotion. So when Nicole says you can start perimenopause as early as 35, you're 35 and you haven't experienced any symptoms of perimenopause yet, you might feel scared, right? You might be like, she just said perimenopause can start as early as 35. I'm turning 35. Oh my God, what's going to happen? I'm going to become crazy like my mom, right? Or if you're 40, and so if you're 35 and you have this thought, oh my gosh, this is going to happen to me. I'm going to be crazy. You feel scared. You feel anxious. You feel nervous, right? The same woman sitting next to you who's 40 and has been experiencing all these unexplained symptoms, She hears Nicole say that and she goes, oh my gosh, I'm normal. Oh my gosh, I'm not crazy. And she feels calm and seen, and her anxiety goes down, right? Nicole said the same thing, right? What was different was the two women had different thoughts. Our thoughts create our feelings. Now, there are emotions that come up from trauma. That's a whole different presentation, and we're not going to get into that today. But what we are going to talk about is how to take a hold of those thoughts and create the emotions that you want to experience in your body, okay? Because you can. When you feel anxious, or you hear somebody say, wow, you're gonna start to go crazy, right? You can hear your thought, oh yeah, that's gonna happen to me, it's gonna be horrible, and you can feel anxious. Or you can notice that thought and be like, oh, my brain just offered me the thought, I'm gonna go crazy because my hormones are changing. Maybe I'm not gonna believe that right now. Instead, I'm gonna believe I can get help if I have problems. When I think I can get help if I have problems, that's a very calm thought, right? When I think there's people who can help me with this, that anxiety can slow down a little bit, right? It doesn't mean the other thought isn't there. The other thought will always be there. So this is not a plea to like pretend that everything's fine. Pretend that you don't think this is the worst thing that ever happened to me. That thought can still be there. And you can start to choose thoughts to go alongside of it. And the more you choose new thoughts that feel better in your body, the more your brain will start to move to those thoughts. This is how we become resilient. This is when you hear people talk about emotionally resilient, it's because their brain offers them the same thought, right? That makes them feel anxious. It offers them the thought like, I'm not going to be okay. My body's failing me. My body's abandoning me. Like whatever thought pops into your head, right? I'm never going to be skinny again. Now I'm ugly and I'm going to be ugly forever, right? Whatever thought your brain's offering you, I guarantee you somebody who is like has it together or is emotionally resilient is hearing those thoughts too. The difference is they're not believing everything that their brain offers them. And this is where I think as women, we sometimes don't realize how much power we have, okay? At least then this was my experience, I was not taught that the thoughts in my brain are optional. I was taught there are thoughts in your brain and then you deal with the consequences, right? If you're sad, well, yeah, you're sad because that person said something mean to you, and aren't they terrible, right? As opposed to, oh, they said something and I believed them. That's why I'm sad. Okay. If somebody says, wow, you've gained some weight, if you believe them and it's a problem, you're going to have a lot of emotions about it, right? If somebody says, oh, you've gained some weight, and you think, yeah, because my body's changing right now. Yeah, it kind of sucks. And you don't let it become part of your thought cycle, right? You don't spiral down into this shame. You don't have to be as affected by that sadness, by that whatever comes up for you when you think, well, I've gained weight, I suck, right? So when it comes to perimenopause, and I say perimenopause because that's where I am. It's a whole thing. Nicole's getting texts from me. I just had this symptom. I don't know what to do. She's like, you're okay. Stop it. But when it comes to perimenopause, we have so much power in how we think about what we're experiencing. And that's what I want to leave you with. So we're going to go through these. These are on your little sheet. We're going to go through these. But I just want you to think about the more you can become aware of what your brain is offering you, the less suffering you are going to experience as your body changes over time. Okay. So when you notice, man, I haven't changed my workout, I haven't changed how I eat, but now I've got more belly fat, you can choose to believe my body is breaking down, I'm getting old now nobody's going to love me, right? And that leads to a lot of emotional suffering, right? Those thoughts, for most of us, don't make us feel empowered, don't make us feel calm, don't make us feel pretty, right? But when those thoughts enter your head, because they will, you can say, oh, that's my old way of thinking. Cool. I see it. And I'm going to choose to believe I'm in a really cool time of life where I get to go through this with knowledge. I loved Desirae's quote at the end, right? That we don't need to, now I'm not going to remember the exact quote, but we don't need to live in fear because we have knowledge, right? So when you have thoughts like, I'm never going to be pretty again, you can be like, oh, or I can just embrace the fact that pretty doesn't matter. I can be pretty in my own brain, right? Yes, they may not, Vogue may never call me and ask me to be on their cover. Cool. I can still speak kindly to myself the way I would want someone to speak to my daughter, right? When your body is like, you're like, I just got diagnosed with a freaking stress fracture because my estrogen's in the toilet and I broke something, right? You can choose to believe, oh, that's it for me. Now I'm an old woman and I'll have to stop working out. Or you can say, wow, this is a good reminder. I'm going to get some help and figure this out, right? It is literally just noticing and then choosing a new thought that's more helpful. So your inner world comes first. That's the kind of what I'm trying to get at is if you can become aware of your inner world, even slightly, you will decrease your suffering because when your inner world is going to happen, right? Those thoughts are going to happen whether you want them to be there or not. It doesn't have to be a struggle. You don't have to be like, oh, my brain's my enemy. You can literally just say, oh, thanks, brain. Actually, they said everyone was welcome at the gym, so I'm going to go ahead and go. I know it doesn't feel safe, but I'm just going to do it anyway, right? Because your brain's not trying to be a tyrant. Your brain is not trying to make you feel bad or make you feel anxious or make you feel dumb or ugly. Your brain is literally just trying to keep you safe, and it doesn't know the best way because it's not an adult, okay? Basically, that subconscious part of our brain is like a toddler, and you have to just be, thank you for offering that, but we're not going with that thought. We're going with this more helpful thought today. And then the last point is build on purpose. So when you are noticing perimenopause symptoms, when you are noticing that you don't want to go to the gym, you don't feel motivated, you don't I have a whole other thing about motivation. When you're noticing that, when you're thinking about, I want to hit perimenopause, or I want to finish perimenopause strong, or I want to get through this and not feel like a crazy person, right? You can start to think about what are those one or two things that are going, like Desirae was talking about, what are those one or two things, those lifestyle things that I can start to work on that will help me transition well, right? And I really like my clients to be very intentional and start super small. So you've heard already two phenomenal speakers who know a lot, and they are a great resource to start with because you want to pick one or two resources, one or two, okay, I'm going to start going to the sweat class 1 day a week. I'm going to start journaling 5 minutes once a week. Start small and build those into your life. When we try to change everything all at once, we're like, oh man, I'm 35. Let's change what we're eating. I'm going to start working out 5 times a week carefully so that I'm not stressing myself. But I'm going to start, I'm going to eat completely different. I'm not going to drink alcohol anymore. And I'm definitely going to journal and meditate every night, right? When we try to do that, I'm sure you've experienced this. We've all done it. We do it great for about a week. And then the brain's like, you're overwhelmed. What are you doing? Stop, right? So when you are thinking about building a life that you want to live, pick one or two things, implement it for a while, ask yourself if it worked well for you, and then implement something else. Did that work for you? Do you want to keep it that way, or do you want to do it differently? I do a lot of meditation at night because that works really well for me. But I know some people love to do their meditation and prayer and everything in the morning, right? But you have to find what works for your life. It starts with questioning the thoughts that are coming across your brain, right? Finding thoughts that feel good in your body. Does it feel good to think this is normal and I know how to get help? Great. Practice that one, right? And then really just looking at your life and saying, what little change can I make today? What class can I go to at the gym today that is going to help me tomorrow and the next day and the next day? So my quote that I have is, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you'll call it fate. So many women, we live our lives, and this is, to some extent, it's necessary, especially when we have the little ones, right? You have to just make it through each day, right? You're like, I have to keep this human alive and do all the things, right? But when we go through our life habitually or subconsciously, we allow the subconscious to have all the power. And from that place, it's really hard to not suffer when something happens, to not feel sad when somebody says something we don't like. When we make those subconscious, unconscious thoughts conscious and we notice them, wow, it is a very powerful way to live your life. Not that you're going to change every single thought, not that you're going to change every single habit, but just noticing what your brain is doing is a powerful way to live. It's amazing. So I would encourage you, take those, run with them, and just continue to ask yourself, like, what is subconscious that I need to notice today? So that is what I have for you. That QR code, when this event is over, it's going to go back to my normal stuff that's on there, which is, there's a free resource called Lower Your Stress 1, 2, 3. It's just 3 steps when you're in it, like when you're in the moment, like somebody cuts you off or your kids are screaming and you're like, I got to do this and I got to do that. 3 steps to just really quickly slow everything down. So that'll be on that QR code, as well as information about the expo that's coming up next week that I'll be at. So that is what I have for you today. And we're going to transition to Annie.
Hi everyone, I am Annie. My little logo here today, Igniting Life. This is my LLC. I teach yoga, and I bring my yoga to you. That's my big thing. I will curate an experience that you're looking for. I like to work with different businesses and organizations that are looking to grow their numbers. They're looking for something different to bring people together. That's what I come in for, and I create that experience. On top of that, I work full-time for Trot, Therapeutic Riding of Tri-Cities. Thank you. Yeah, let's give Trot a round of applause. Trot is an incredible organization. I'll dive into it a little bit deeper. I am going to have this wonderful woman in the center of the room do a big wave. This is Cynthia, our executive director. She started Trot, so it's amazing to have her. Definitely feel free to talk to her later today and ask her any questions you have. So I work with Trot in marketing and community engagement. I'm always trying to bring people into the nonprofit, but on the side I'm also running yoga. So you know a little bit about who's talking to you today. And then I'd like to share with you about Trot. Okay, this is my slide here. We're about to talk about Trot. Okay. All right, so about Trot. Trot stands for Therapeutic Riding of Tri-Cities. We are an animal-assisted therapy facility. The main animal that we work with is horses. We also have goats and chickens, cats, and dogs. So really, it's all of them, right? We even joke that the chickens have some therapeutic effects. Not quite sure what those are, but they're there. We work with people who might have special needs, disabilities. We work with veterans, first responders, anyone who might have been in a space of trauma, experiencing any challenges related to that. We have core programs. Our first program that I'd like to talk about is adaptive writing. Adaptive writing is our flagship, it's what we're known for. So we have people with the different disabilities and challenges that we adapt their horseback riding lessons to their needs. So if you think somebody's been on a wheelchair their whole life, right? They may not have a lot of core strength. You put them on a horse, we're gonna work on that. We're gonna build that strength. So that's a huge part of what we do with adaptive writing is flexibility, strength, mobility, but also we're working on confidence. A lot of these students, you know, whether they're made fun of at school, whether they're seen differently out in society, not at trot, not when they're on a horse. So adaptive writing is our flagship program, that's what we're known for. We also offer Path to Success. Path to Success is a program that's non-writing. It can be for elderly people. It can be for young kiddos. We do it with groups, special groups, like if you've heard of V5, which is a nonprofit in town for refugee families. They've come out and taken that program and learned about general horsemanship and horse care. We also offer what's called Trotters Club. This is for people 9 to 15 years old who really, really want to be a part of trot, want to be a part of what we offer out there, but they're not quite old enough to be working with the population that we have. So it's for 4-H and FFA. And then we offer Horses Helping Parents. This is a 6-week program. This is what I was talking about, those veterans and first responders and anyone who's been in that frontline role. We actually had a group of nurses after COVID come and take that program and spend time at our facility with our horses. And they said it was life-changing. The things that they experienced during COVID and then got to process and work through with the horses, it was really incredible. Trying to think of what I'm missing. And then we also offer services. We have birthday parties. I already said Trotters. Boss is here. What am I going to do with Boss Lady's here? We've got birthday parties that we throw. We have hard to not have my slides up here. Field trips. Yes, we offer field trips. We offer something called Barn Buddy Days. If you work for an organization in town, we love to have volunteers come spend time at our facility. We just recently had New America. They came and painted one of our buildings, did some weeding for us. It was a really great day to bond. What did you say? Hippotherapy, yeah, that's another one of our programs that we offer. So hippo is the Greek word for horse therapy. This is a one-to-one session with an occupational therapist or a physical therapist, a mental health therapist, somebody who's trained in that field will work one-to-one with that rider and their time. So that's a lot of things that Trot offers. If you want to learn more, we do have our booth set up over here. And again, we've got Cynthia here, we've got some of our volunteers here supporting today. You guys being here, learning about it, donating to it is a huge deal. You're bringing a lot to your community, so thank you so much for being a part of that. At the end, I'll see if there's any questions about that. So, moving on to my second hat, I'll take off the trot hat, move into yoga. Okay, so I introduced Igniting Life. Igniting Life, we curate experiences for you. I'll come to you and create the event that you need. For example, I worked with a farm in Benton City. They were getting low numbers with their produce, not enough people coming out and seeing things. She asked me to come to yoga class and let's make flower bouquets together. We'll do yoga and then flowers. I mean, sign me up. I was there for that. That's amazing. So it's the kind of thing I'll do. If your business or your family or friends are looking for a new way to bond and come together, I'd like to bring yoga to you and talk about that. There's a few different things that I will do, whether that's creating an hour class, an hour and a half long class. You can work on meditation, breathing, yoga movement, asana. The other thing I will do is yoga plus adventure of your choice. So let's go to a winery, get a group of girlfriends together, go get a glass of wine and do some yoga. You can go make flower bouquets and do yoga. Let's go for a bike ride. We're talking about the different ways of finding movement and strength building. Let's do a CrossFit class and then slow down with yoga. There's so many ways The last thing I'm willing to offer is the yoga lab. I have 500 hours of yoga certification training under my belt. I would love to teach you about the history, the study, and philosophy of yoga if you're ever interested, so I can create that for you. So these are all the things that Igniting Life offers. Okay, the next thing I want to talk a little bit is a little quick biology lesson. I'm sure you're all like, oh my god, we've done so much learning today, but just a little bit more. Just a little bit more. I want to talk about the nervous system. So the nervous system is your body's communication. So if you think you've got brain and spinal cord, and then you've got all those nerves going everywhere, that's your nervous system. This is the transmitting of signals and messages to your brain. We talked a lot about how those messages and things can get mixed up. And my focus is about how we can reset that. But I want to dive into a little bit into the biology of all of these things. So there's two parts to our nervous system. Does anyone know what those parts are? You can raise your hand. No one knows? Do you know? Parasympathetic and sympathetic, yes, there's like 4 parts. Anyone have any other parts? Central nervous system and? Who said? Peripheral. Perfect, thank you. So yeah, so there's the central nervous system, which is your brain and spinal cord. There's the peripheral nervous system, which is all those nerves. There's also in the PNS, the peripheral, somatic versus autonomic. Does anyone know the difference between somatic and autonomic? So many doctors and nurses in here, come on. Okay. So somatic is the voluntary movements, like your skeletal muscles. And then autonomic, these are those things that just naturally happen. I mean, maybe sometimes we keep it from happening, like breathing, your heart rate, digestion. And then you break that down even further to sympathetic and parasympathetic. Sympathetic is your flight, fight, or freeze. We're going to talk a little bit about that. So, with your nervous system, I have this super sweet photo of an explosion and then a deflated balloon. Because in my mind, all of these things, the things that all of these lovely women have talked about today, chronic stress, high levels of anxiety, depression, poor sleep, digestive challenges, emotional regulation, you're going to explode. Yeah. That doesn't feel good. And then you're going to become this deflated balloon. So I'm going to take you guys through a few ways to not become that deflated balloon. Or if you are that balloon, how can we get back to a filled up, nice, beautiful, bouncing balloon? So, we're going to start with a breathing reset. You guys are all in your seats. But I want you to find comfortable crisscross applesauce if you can. That doesn't feel comfortable. If you need backing for your back, feel free to do a chair or lean against the bench. Finding a nice straight spine. Roll your shoulders, drop them down and back. Do that again. Let your hands rest on your knees. To start, we're going to take 3 rounds of a deep breath. So you guys to inhale in, and exhale, sigh it out. And again, inhale in, exhale, sigh it out. Last one, in, and out. Good. Allow for a little more relaxed and another proper seat. We're going to practice something called Nadi Shodhana. That is Sanskrit for nostril breathing. I want you to take your right hand. You're going to bring your thumb and your ring finger together. Perfect. So you should have these 2 fingers, your pointer finger and your middle finger together. Okay. Then you're going to take your fingers and bring them just right here to the third eye. And you can let go of the hold of your thumb and your right finger. I want you to plug your right thumb. You're going to use your thumb plug in. From here, let's take a deep inhale in through your left nostril and exhale it out the left nostril. Good, do that 4 more rounds. If you feel called to close your eyes, you can. Taken 4 rounds out of that nostril. Keep your hands there. Release your thumb. Then bring your ring finger or your pinky too. You can press them both and close the left nostril. Now you're going to take 5 rounds through the right side nostril. So go ahead, find those inhales and exhales out of the one nostril. Notice if they're quick breaths. Pull from the belly, nice. Beautiful. No rush to complete that side. But when you do, continue to keep those fingers at your third eye center. We're now going to do the rotation. So I want you to press your thumb in to your right nostril. Inhale in through the left. Close up the left nostril and exhale through the right. Inhale in through the right. Close it up. Exhale through the left. Inhale in. Close it, exhale through the right. Take about 6 more rounds, alternating the nostrils. Beautiful way to slow down your heart rate, your thoughts. I don't know about you guys, but there's an immediate difference in the symptoms. Immediately a different feeling. Even me feeling my own anxieties about my presentation not working, I feel like I could take a nap now. If you feel it. Alright, the next piece. Let's practice a little bit with breath. Now I want to take time to practice movements that are going to help you come back to that beautiful balloon that I'm discussing. Resetting your nervous system. So in those moments of big stresses, big challenges, anxieties, practice Nadi Shodhana, and then maybe try some of these movements. So if there is space for you, I'd like you to come to your back. Laying all the way on your back. You're going to practice a movement called Akhanasana. In Akhanasana, you're going to squeeze your knees into your chest. Let's go ahead and do so. Squeeze them in nice and tight. On your inhale, you will release your feet up towards the ceiling. Your hands come out from your side. So go ahead, find your next inhale, release everything out. Good. Exhale, squeeze it all in. 3 more rounds. Breath, then you move. And when you've completed your 3 rounds, I want you to find full expansion. Reach your hands out behind you, toes reach out in front of you, full body stretch. Take up space, it's yours. Good, then bring your hands down by your hips. Let your feet fall out naturally to the side. This is a fan favorite pose for most people. This is corpse pose, Shavasana. What I recommend when you come into corpse pose, that you practice your deep breathing. You might even bring a hand to your heart, one to your belly. Feel the rise and the fall of your breath as it enters and exits. Notice if you have shallower breaths and you're not getting that full expansion in your belly and your chest. Take 2 more rounds of breath here. In through your nose. Exhale, sigh it out. In. And out. From here, I want you to gently lift yourself up. Make sure your legs are out in front of you. Time to get there. So this is Uttanasana, or your forward bend. Uttanasana is another way to ground when you are needing that nervous system reset. There's a lot of things touching the ground here. You might even put your fingertips, feel the things around you, whether you've got a mat, the CrossFit floor, just kind of feeling the textures. Find that straight spine again, rolling the shoulders away. We hold a lot of tension here, so trying to find a little bit of relaxation. And then you'll lift your hands up towards the ceiling. Toes are pointed and engaged towards your body. Good. On your exhale, you fold forward. Let your head and neck rest. There's no judgment about where your hands land. They do not have to reach your toes. Control, you roll up 1 vertebrae at a time. Again, letting your head be the last thing to come up. Notice again if you rush it, and why. From this seat, I want you to swing your legs to the side. Come into a tabletop pose, and then bringing the knees out wide, land into child's pose. If you've got your shoes on, don't worry about it. It's not right there. Child's pose is Balasana in Sanskrit. This is another wonderful place to reset your nervous system. You can reach your fingertips a little bit further out in front of you. Good. Getting that full back expansion. Beautiful work. Notice here if your eyes are intensely closed, soften the eyelids. Relax your gaze. Notice any places of high points of tension in your body, and you send your breath to it. Beautiful. With control, and slowly come out of child, rolling yourself up. From here, make your way back into your comfortable seat. Amazing. These poses are some of my go-to for that nervous system reset, for that slowing down, for when your mind is going a million miles an hour. I would like a little discussion after doing those movements, after doing Nadi Shodhana. What did you notice? Anyone share what they observed? More relaxed. More relaxed. Awesome. Thank you.
Very mindful.
Very mindful. Yeah. Yeah, paying attention to where your body is. Nothing else. Like that. Nothing else. Anything else? Calmness. Yeah, absolutely. Did that take very long to do that? No. Because you think about all those times when you're up here in life and you're try something like that for just a few moments. It makes a huge difference. So, for those of you who can see it, I've got my inflated heart balloon on this slide to show that from fight, flight, or freeze, you can use breathwork, you can use movement to come to balance. And I have these little fun facts that I'll read that I find very interesting. So, your parasympathetic system will kick in when you come into balance. You start to recover to a return state of calmness. Your body, when it is in a balanced state, it means you can more efficiently handle stress, you'll recover more quickly, and maintain general well-being. There was a study on people with sleep issues that showed just 3 weeks of pranayama, or breath, which we practice, led to a 17.9% drop in cortisol. Trauma survivors doing trauma-informed yoga reported a 43% decrease in PTSD symptoms after 10 weeks of class. That stuff is powerful. So, that is all that I have to share. Thank you so much for listening and moving. Does anyone have any questions? Thank you. I think our whole panel is going to head up here now. Questions for any of us? Any 4 of us? Only easy questions for her. No, you did. Got a good question for me.
So we talked a lot about perimenopause, and it's super scary. And when you go into menopause, does your cortisol stay crazy, or does it kind of level out?
After menopause, things tend to start to even out. So this isn't a forever thing that you're going to have to go through. But again, the duration varies. So some women it's a year, some women it's 10 years. So that's why we need to just kind of continue to treat that and use these techniques like things we learned today from Annie and from Betty in combination with checking your hormones, in combination with pelvic floor therapy and seeking out that help, that will all come together and help you to kind of get through that transitionary period and make sure that your symptoms, if you do continue to suffer from them after menopause, are well controlled and maintained. And then you're also, it's not just the symptom control, but it's also preventing those chronic diseases that come after menopause, increased risk for heart disease and bone loss and Alzheimer's and all of those things. So it's more important than just how you feel now. So if you're not having severe symptoms, you still want to make sure we're aggressive about that and treating you and making sure you live a healthy and happy life for as long as possible.
Yeah, I wanted you to mention that there's a ton of research in the perimenopause, finding out what is something that you would suggest, like, don't take that advice, or, that's just purely, social media kind of thing. Like, what should we watch out for as we, disseminate some of this information?
That's such a good question. It's so hard because I've seen menopause doctors say things online that I was like, ooh, that wasn't right. And they have millions of followers. And I was like, and then I try and reach out to them and they don't respond. And we need better team. So you need to be able to talk to each other, social media, let's make it social, right? So, knowing us, we will definitely do our best to make sure that we are all accurate and the best knowledge that we have to date. And if you do have a question, then you always reach out to any of us. But being very mindful about if it sounds too good to be true, it's probably not. If it goes against the grain, because there's a lot of clickbait out there, like you're doing this wrong, or this person's completely wrong. doing their own like research as far as like getting familiar with what it is, why it makes sense, why it doesn't make sense. Because when you don't know, when you're just taking it ad lib from people, you just gotta be careful. So that's what I would say about that. And like I said, yeah, some of the doctors on there are like, not to say that everything they say is wrong. Most of the things that they say are correct. But every once in a while, if we're all fallible, we can look at a study and we get excited about it and we say like, this is the case, and it's not actually the case. So just keep that in mind.
But I think looking at, do they profit off it? Do they profit off your fear? So someone who primarily makes it, well, first look at their credentials. If they're not even certified or have a degree in it, and they're selling a product, you see this a lot with supplements in the healthcare space, and in the fitness space, like, do they profit significantly off you being fearful and needing to buy that stuff? Versus them offering you a service that's a true consultation, and a lot of healthcare practitioners can't practice across state lines, so it's like, unless they're certified in Mexico. You can practice in Oregon. I can only practice in Washington. So if you're like hitting a New York doctor or a New York practitioner who really can't even practice in Washington, that's probably a little bit of a flag. Even if you reach out like, well, I can treat you, but don't tell me. You know, that sort of stuff. That's not great. I would say people talk in absolutes too, because you have to think that my experience with perimenopause will be totally different than yours, but they're saying that you're definitely going to have this, you need to get on this, except for physical activity, you need to do that. You need to get on this like supplement. You don't take, I don't know, turmeric, right? Your knees are going to explode. People talking absolutes really make profit off you being scared. Those are the guys to watch out for. And reach out to us. I'll definitely tell you, like, that's a good source, that's not a good source.
And I would just add there, social media is a wonderful, amazing tool, and it's also a really deadly, like, dark hole, right? And we all know, we've all experienced the, like, you get on to check what your friend is doing, and then, like, 20 minutes later, you're, like, down a rabbit hole, somebody trying to, like, convince you that whatever the latest conspiracy theory is, right? So I would just say, if you're on social media and it is stirring up an emotion that is unhelpful for you, if you're watching a reel and it stirs up fear, if it stirs up anxiety, if it stirs up frustration, anger, it is okay to look away. If you are online, and this even goes, and I'm going to say it, this even goes for news. If watching the news is causing you a lot of hurt, it is okay to look away for a little while. Go take a walk, go play with your kids or your grandkids, like connect with your actual people. Because when it comes to social media, it is wonderful when we are connecting with people we trust and we know and we like. But there's so many people who are wanting to profit off of our fear, off of our anxiety. They want our wallet, they want our money, or they just want our time and attention. And so just check in with how is that real, how is that story, how is it making you feel, is it helpful? If not, give yourself permission to look away. Or send it to one of these gals and we'll tell you to look away.
Not me. I think she was asking more in the medical sense, so I'll leave it there.
I think going back to a little bit, set over here, a lot of my people have gone through perimenopause and are now postmenopausal. I mean, how much they absolutely love it, right? They don't have to go with a period, they don't have to worry about being pregnant, period cramps are gone. You feel so much power within yourself because you're accepting the way you look, those sort of things. But sometimes it gets lost in translation because now they're retired and want to go on a big cruise, and then they realize their body won't let them go on a big cruise. So that's why it's like, it's not necessarily like being fearful of what's going to happen, but let's optimize what I can, going against what's fighting against me a little bit. So I want you to go on the cruise, I want you to invite me. I'll carry your bags. But I want you to enjoy retirement, and that's why I'm thinking about your later years. So it's a transition that's going to happen over years, but it doesn't mean you have to suffer for years. Or at the end of it.
What's the first thing we do to check the estrogen?
What's the first step?
Yeah.
Yeah. So blood work is always a good place to start.
This is a regular panel.
Yeah, we want to look at estradiol E2, we look at progesterone, we look at total and free testosterone, SHBG, sex hormone bioglobulin, and then of course looking at all the other things, your CPC, CMP, anemia, tryptophan, all of that stuff. Because we want to take it within the full picture, because there could be something going on. Maybe your thyroid is a little wonky, and that will downstream affect your sex hormones. So anything that causes stress in the body, your body is very intelligent, and it's going, okay, so if I'm stressed out, and my thyroid's not working right, and the adrenal's not working right, well, I don't need to reproduce because this is more important. So we're going to down-regulate that whole system. So your sex hormones are naturally going to go down. In addition to the fact of perimenopause and going through that transition. So especially early perimenopause, it's important to do that. I also do things like a Dutch test, which is dry urine test, and it looks at the sex hormones, all three of the estrogen, E1, E2, E3, and then also the metabolism of those. Because sometimes we'll metabolize down a pathway that is detrimental to lead to increased risk of cancer. And if we know that your body likes to do that, then we can support the body to kind of go in a better direction. Methylation pathways and detoxification. A couple different ways that we do it. The basics, so your primary care, ask for estradiol, your progesterone, full free testosterone, SHBG,